Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast of Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who is convinced Cole Strange did pass the first down marker. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. Just typical of the NFL to not have any fun with it, right? Like, that shouldn't have been reviewed. Should be a first down every time that happens.
There should be a rule that if it's an offensive lineman trying to get the first down, like if it's close, you give it. You can't review it. You give it to them automatically.
Yeah. A cool as hell sort of wrinkle to the rule. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so. We should have a very fun show today. A lot of good week 2 games. I have my Bud Light ready, Kyle. Ready to go.
Good. I had Miller Lite. I didn't want anyone to yell at me. So
yeah, probably a good move. What am I supposed to do now? Throw out the Bud Light I have in my fridge? I have it. Anyway, we don't need to go down there too soon. Kyle, this was a fun week. Multiple overtime games.
Yeah, a lot of competitive games. We saw some bounce backs, some not so bounce backs from week 1 results. So there was a lot to talk about, and I think we're getting a little more data too. That's a big thing as we head into the bigger stretch of the season here coming up.
Yeah, some teams we saw, okay, no, you are who we thought you were and just had a weird week 1. Some the opposite happened. So why don't we just as we always do, let's start off with the Sunday night game as your team, the New England Patriots, playing the division rival Tua's Miami Dolphins yet again for the 5th time in 5 games, falling short. Kyle, why don't you take the floor here? What were your thoughts on this Sunday night performance?
Miami did a really good job of kind of, for the most part, taking what the defense was giving them. I mean, New England had some interesting defensive tactics in this game, which was basically like no when it came to throwing deep. And I thought they largely did a good job of that. They had 3 safeties back a lot of the game. I thought there was opportunities for them to take some more chances in this game, and they didn't take a whole lot of chances. It seemed like from the initial watch of like bringing guys up, sending a lot of blitzes, anything like that. But they did a good job of containing Jalen or Tyreek Hill for the most part, which was the big thing. I know he had a touchdown, but this was a very good game defensively in that respect. But Miami took what the defense gave them, and what they gave them was Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert had an excellent game. That 43-yard touchdown run, I think he was untouched. And so there was a lot of light boxes, and Miami wasn't afraid to take advantage of those, and they did a good job up front. Now they were going basically 5-on-4 a lot of those plays, but they did a good job of winning those battles still, and Mostert did a good job of taking advantage too.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I didn't think Tua had his best day. I think we've come to the point where we're expecting to see more out of Tua at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't his best performance. I still thought he had some really good throws in there. Still thought he had some good plays in there. It just was more of an inconsistent day, and that kind of allowed New England to hang around a little.
Yeah. I mean, he had some excellent throws. I mean, that throw to I think it was Berrios on the sideline that set up the I think it was the second touchdown of the game. That was a big time throw. Right towards the end of the half. He had a few other ones like that. But then you also saw, the pick, just, I know you're seeing your guy with one-on-one, but you just threw it up in the air. And it was short of where he was going too. So that wasn't a good throw. He had a couple other misses. But for the most part, I thought he was pretty solid. But like you said, if we're going to have him in the conversations of, is this guy among the best quarterbacks in football? Is this guy an MVP candidate maybe down the line? A little too early for me to talk about that. But we have higher expectations of you. And yes, we're going to get to all the other MVP candidates who have disappointed so far, Joe Burrow. But I do feel like he let us down a little in this game in some regards, but he still got the win, still did enough, and still made some really good throws.
Where are we at in mac and cheese watch so far?
Um, I think he's been. I mean, from last year to this year, it's significantly better. This looks a lot more like rookie Mac Jones, which we had a lot of optimism for. The problem is that the coaching staff doesn't trust him. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're going to say that this is the offseason to move on from Mac Jones, that is the reason why. I mean, we've talked about this before in the past. I think Bill Belichick ranked at dead last season as among aggressive play callers and coaching when it comes to fourth down decision making. They had a 4th and 4 in this game in Miami territory that he could have gone for. He didn't. There have been instances where he could have, maybe pushed the needle a little bit more, and they didn't. They had a 2nd and 8 right out of the 2-minute warning, which was a big part of the game that they could go down and maybe get some points. And they ran an inside zone up the middle and then a short pass that was way behind the sticks on 3rd down. And then they had to punt back to Miami. Miami all of a sudden goes down and scores, and then it changes the game, right? So there are just plays like that over and over again where it just doesn't seem like he has the trust. And, I think, the Patriots had 8 of their 10 possessions in Miami territory in this game. That's really good. There are still really good things about this team, and I don't think this team's bad. But at the same time, they don't know how to win yet either. And that's a big problem because these are 2 games that it felt like they had opportunities and didn't take enough advantages of them, and that's what's going to cost them.
Yeah, it's just weird. And it's like I agree. I don't think Mac Jones is playing poorly necessarily, but it's also like you look at the overall numbers, and it's 42 attempts, just 231 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And like obviously box score stats don't tell the whole story, but it's sort of like if this is all this passing offense can do, like I'm not just blaming him, but like, I tweeted out. And it's true. It's like every time Mac Jones throws the ball deep, I'm like, well, that's not going to work out. Like every time, I feel like it's like when your team has a bad running game, and once you see them hand the ball off, you're already like groaning because it's not going to do much. That's how I feel about Mac Jones throwing deep.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. I mean, it's a catch-22, right? It doesn't feel like he can throw the ball deep with effectiveness, but he hasn't had that player that can go get balls downfield like that. His best player in that scenario is probably Kendrick Bourne. Where if you're ranking Kendrick Bourne among deep threats in the NFL, he's not going to rank very highly.
No.
And so it's frustrating to watch the Patriots because I do think the offense has shown a lot of progression, but there's still no explosives in their offense. And
what about Cole Strange?
Cole Strange, yeah, I mean he's tried. And I just think when you see these teams try and go 10 plays, 75 yards every time, it's just really hard to win that way without getting any sort of explosives. And it just doesn't seem like they're able to generate those. And I think part of it's on Mac and not being able to have those balls down, but I also think part of it's just on he doesn't have the skill position guys around him to really, maximize those. And if you don't have an elite guy, you need elite skill talent, and they don't have either.
Yeah. Christian Gonzalez looks good defensively.
He is. I've been very impressed. He probably had the most difficult assignment a rookie cornerback could have the first 2 weeks of the season, going AJ Brown, Devontae Smith to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I thought he looked excellent. I really like this Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar safety duo. I think that's a fun group. I even like, if we're talking about younger guys, I know he fumbled in this game, but I like Demario Douglas and some of the stuff he can do. I wish he got back on the field after that fumble, but
that's not
going
to.
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I still think he does some pretty good things too. So I think there's reason for optimism about this team. But it does feel like a little bit of a letdown watching these games slip away from us. So it would have been tough to go 1-1 or 2-0 with this opening stretch. They have to come back and win against New York next week. That's basically the deal for the Patriots.
Yeah, New England. It's weird because they feel like they looked more impressive than maybe we thought heading into the year, but also still find themselves 0-2 at the end of the day. What does it matter how impressive you look if you're not winning football games? Let's move on. Speaking of how impressive is it really, the New York Giants. Everyone thought the Giants were dead. We were writing the eulogies. Giants down 20-0 at the half, down 28-7 in the third quarter, and down by 14 in the fourth quarter, come all the way back to beat the Josh Dobbs-led Arizona Cardinals. Daniel Jones, you can say what you want about being the Cardinals defense and all that. He still was just about perfect in the second half as the Giants, the G-Men, not going away without a fight, beating the worst team in football.
They are not dead yet.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild. Like it
Yeah.
really was just crazy how that played out. I mean, they like I was more than concerned watching the first half of this game. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what like how do we talk about this without like being like just straight up mean? Is basically what I was
Right.
thinking about, because it was like the defense looked non-existent. It wasn't moving. The offense looked lifeless, and the first half was about as abysmal as it could get. And this team just lost 40-0 in maybe the most embarrassing fashion. And that first half of this game maybe looked worse. That being said, they won. They won the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Jones made some big plays. I mean, these skill guys that they've invested in, Darren Waller had some nice numbers. We'll see how the Saquon injury plays out. But I thought, despite only having 102 total yards of offense on 26 touches, I thought he played pretty well despite those numbers. And,
Mm-hmm.
he did some good stuff. Jalen Hyatt had some big plays. He's a guy I really like
Mm-hmm.
too. So that they ended up getting some talent to really showcase itself in the second half, and it paid off in a big way.
Yeah, you look at Jalen Hyatt's numbers, and it's like, oh, 89 yards. Okay, pretty solid day. Only 2 catches.
Uh-huh.
2 catches, 89 yards. Pretty good stuff there. Yes, I agree. Saquon, 3.7 yards per carry. But isn't that just the story of Saquon's career? Like, oh, he only had 3.7 yards per carry, but he actually played pretty well.
Yeah, it's the most impressive 63-yard day you could see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
basically his log line.
yeah, I mean, the concerns if you're a Giants fan is, not only were the issues of the offensive line, like there were hope that this would be better, and it looks worse for the
Mm-hmm.
offensive line. I think that's a huge problem. And, I think Waller, like I said, he had a good second half, but there just doesn't seem to be enough skill pop for what they were hoping to invest in with these guys.
We have a $20 super chat from Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Oh,
We
thank you.
appreciate that. Says, thanks for your video earlier, Jackson. Of course. But you might consider this, even though Dable denied it, I think he called plays in the second half. It really was night and day between first and second half. I got to be honest. So I think the Cardinals secondary is absolutely terrible. I think it's really
Yeah.
bad. There was a couple of plays early on that the Giants had a chance to capitalize on in the first half and didn't. And also, you look at how that first half played out for the Giants offense. It was 3 straight 3-and-outs and then a good drive that ended up in a fluky interception. And so it was like they kind of just had like a couple things go. Like one of them was like there was like a blown coverage, like Daniel Jones missed the throw on one of those like 3-and-outs. So it's kind of just like they shot themselves in the foot a little bit early on, and then just like played against a really bad defense and were able to make stuff happen that way. That's kind of how I saw the game.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like if this were college football, you're not chalking this up as an impressive resume win, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the game you look to as like this is a key win in your standings. This is the game the Giants should have won. But the
But let
fact
me.
that they
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, go off. I feel like, well, I agree. We weren't thinking that when they were down 20-0. When they're down 20-0, I think I certainly had a thought of like, are they just as bad as a team like the Giants? Like, are they just like the worst team in football? I think this game showed that they're not.
They definitely showed that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they really needed this win too, because if you look at their next stretch, like
Yeah.
at San Francisco, home to Seattle, at Miami, at Buffalo, like this is a team that you and I personally did not have high expectations for this Giants team.
Mm-hmm.
Giants fans definitely had high expectations for this team. If we're readjusting our calculus based on the first two games, they got a tough stretch ahead of them to try and battle back at this point, because that's looking like a 1-5 start.
Yeah, it'll be tough. They're gonna have to find a way to steal a game or two to have a real chance here. Kyle, say something nice about the Cardinals.
They competed like crazy.
Yeah, sure.
Impressive first half. I think, Dobbs is a very capable backup. I'd feel very
Mm-hmm.
confident in him as a backup quarterback in this league. Obviously, the problem is he's starting right now.
Right.
They have some. This isn't a talent. This is the least talented team in the league, but it's not completely talentless. Like
Mm-hmm.
James Conner's still a good pro.
Yeah, he looked great.
Yeah, I mean, like I it when I criticize him, it sounds like I think he's a stiff, but Marquise Brown isn't a stiff. I mean, there are good players here, um, you know, but it's just still the least talented team in the league, and it changes a lot.
Yeah, Joe in the chat saying, and Dennis Goddard is the Gardeck, however you say his name, is a poor man's Joey Bosa. Yeah, I'm gonna have to learn how to say his name. He's making plays left and right for Arizona.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, wasn't he like PFF's like third or fourth highest edge rusher after week 1? I mean, he's been incredible.
Yeah, well, there you go. Good work, Arizona. There's some nice things, but definitely a rebuilding year for them. Giants, maybe could have been better, but could have been a lot worse given how it went. The Seattle Seahawks. We kind of pinned this game. Seattle Seahawks beat the Lions 37-31 in overtime. We kind of pinned this game as a lot of people talked about it. It was a bit of a higher spread than maybe you would have thought, just given the fact that it kind of felt like it was a bit of an overreaction to week 1 because the Lions had their big win. The Seahawks had their big loss. Seattle proves that theory correct with being able to go into Detroit, pull off an overtime victory. There was some controversy at the end. There was a pick 6 that allowed Seattle to get this victory. We saw kind of the old Geno back, I thought, in this game. I thought Goff, played well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, still a superstar. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on this one?
This was probably the game of the day. It was certainly one of the most exciting. And this was a huge bounce back game for Geno. Much more than we expected. And, maybe we have to change our calculus on the Rams if we're being honest from that week 1 game. Still was kind of an inexcusable performance overall, but this was a big bounce back game for them. They made some really good plays, and Geno made some really good throws. And, he had Metcalf was out for a little bit of a stretch there. He came back, had a good game. Lockett made some big plays. The poor commentator, I think on multiple occasions, called him DK Lockett. He was just like merging them into one like super receiver. So that was interesting. But overall, I thought they played much better. This is much more of the team that I expected to see this season. Outside of the defense still looking like ass, but getting better by the week.
Yeah, and isn't that how Pete Carroll defenses have just gone in the past 7 years? It's just they start off looking terrible and then get better as it goes along.
Yeah, and this is also still a good Lions offense, despite what week 1 said. They have a good offense and they played like it. So it was there's some wins and some losses there for sure.
Yeah, the pick 6 obviously notwithstanding, they had a pretty good day outside of that, and even that had a bit of flukiness to it. Let's talk about the controversy at the end. So it was the way it works, obviously, overtime, you have to score a touchdown on the opening drive. Seattle was in position to do that on a third down. It looked like Aiden Hutchinson got held. Kind of a weird play where Hutchinson did go for a rip move, which means that, if you go for a rip move, then it gives you more leeway. The offensive lineman still has more leeway now to hold. Still seemed like it maybe was questionable even with that, in contact. What were your thoughts on that play?
As someone who has watched Matt Judon in the last few years, I just think as soon as they see that arm movement, they're not giving the holding call. And it's unfortunate because I think some of the times there's some leeway. There should be some leeway with it. But I think, as soon as they see that arm movement of going underneath the arm pad, underneath the offensive tackle's arms, they're not calling it. And that's just the referee's way of saying, this is how we're officiating these games now, because it's all happening so fast. It's hard to adjust that, right?
Yeah, I made a video on it. I don't think Lions fans were thrilled with me bringing that up, but it's the rule. It's one of those things. That's one of those things that I feel like the general public will never accept is an actual rule in football.
Well, the problem is when you use that rip move and get kind of past the offensive lineman, it looks like the lineman's grabbing the defensive player by the neck. And so every time that happens, the person sitting on their couch is saying, "Oh, holding call," because it looks so obviously like a holding, but it's not a holding call,
Yeah. But also, isn't that your God-given right as a football fan to shout that's holding?
Yes. That's holding, big third down. Those are NFL fans' go-tos.
Yeah. Needed that after a big play. Can't do that after a bad play. Yeah, all that good stuff. Big win.
Mine's usually laced with a lot of profanity, but
Sure, of course. Big win for Seattle. Any final thoughts on this game?
No, I mean I like both of these teams. I still came away from both of these game away from this game impressed with both teams. I thought they both did some really good things. I think Seattle's going to eventually figure out how to run the ball, and that's going to unlock even more about this offense. But yeah, I mean, Detroit's fine. Like, I'm not worried about them after this game. I really like their rookie tight end's really impressive.
Yeah.
Laporta, I've been impressed with him through the 2 weeks. So he's been the best rookie on the team.
Yeah, which is, I mean, actually, maybe that's the final thing we should say. Jahmyr Gibbs in this one, again, Montgomery, 16 carries, Gibbs, 7 carries. Gibbs, 7 carries for 17 yards, only 2.4 yards per carry. Did have 39 yards receiving, so they got him into the game that way. But in hindsight, I don't know, maybe getting an elite player in that position instead of right now an okay running back would have been better.
Yeah. I do think he's going to be good. I do think the carry discrepancy is weird, but he's going to be fine. Obviously, this wasn't his best day.
Yeah, definitely not. Speaking of not their best day, Joe Burrow not having his best start to the season after getting that big contract. The Cincinnati Bengals, playing Baltimore. I feel pretty good about picking Baltimore to win the division now, as the Ravens now have a 2-game cushion. This is a big win for them. And also the Ravens are just exactly the Ravens. Like, they have not changed one bit. We talked about this new Ravens. No, they're still the Ravens, but it's still pretty good. And the Joe Burrow though continues to struggle. I mean, nearly in the Blaine Gabbert zone in this game. 41 attempts, just 222 yards. Did throw an interception in this one. Had a couple touchdowns finally, but again, a rough start for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm defending Burrow here, the second half was much better and looked much more like the Bengals. They started to move the ball a little bit more. He got those 2 touchdowns, but it's not enough to be thrilled with what Cincinnati is and what you expected to start the season. Obviously, I'm still not panicking yet. It's only 2 weeks. He didn't practice in August because of the injury he had and all that kind of stuff. So it still feels like he's getting his legs under him. But yeah, I mean, they basically went 5 quarters to start the NFL season looking lifeless, and it took a Charlie Jones punt return to basically wake this team up, and they woke up. I gave them credit for that, but at the same time, it wasn't enough to win this one. And this was a kind of a big game between these two sides, because I do think it's still going to come down to these 2 teams for the division, and they fell short.
Disrespect to the Steelers.
I was thinking disrespect to the Browns. We'll see how that game looks tomorrow night. That should be interesting.
No, obviously I'm joking. I think, yeah. I mean, very fascinating game. It's so Ravens, right? That's so Raven, if you will.
That's so Raven,
We talk about this. Oh, Odell Beckham Jr. They get Zay Flowers, this new team, and Zay Flowers had a good day. But it's like, who's the leading receiver? Nelson Aguilar. Who's the leading rusher? Gus Edwards. Like, yeah, it's the Ravens.
Yeah, I will say the interesting thing about this game for the Ravens, and I thought Lamar was really good in this game too. I want to give him a lot of credit. I thought he looked impressive. One interesting thing is the diversify. We talked. This is the first time we've seen all these new weapons kind of come together, and Mark Andrews is on the field too. He was out week 1. The diversifying of the passing game, I thought, was pretty interesting in this one. And I want to continue to see how that looks, because if you look at it, you had 5 receptions, 63 yards, touchdown Aguilar, 4 receptions, 62 yards, Zay Flowers, who, like you said, has looked terrific. Mark Andrews, 5 catches, 45 yards, touchdown. Odell Beckham, 3 catches. Rashad Bateman, 3 catches. Justice Hill, 3 catches. So
Isaiah Likely, 1 catch.
Yes. But I mean, it felt like there were so many games throughout the last couple of years with the Ravens where it was like Mark Andrews has 12 catches. The next highest guy has like 4. And if they're able to spread the ball around like this, it might make this team a little bit more dangerous. And that's probably what we want to see. I don't think this is ever going to be a team that throws for like 400 yards in a day. But if they're able to spread the ball around and get all of these guys involved, this becomes a dangerous offense.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like, you look at the overall statistics, 37 yards for Lamar. It's like, okay, is that really that big of a deal? But like, total EPA in this game was 12.5 for Lamar. That's a good day, especially against I think what we consider to be at least a above average defense in Cincinnati. It's just like maybe doesn't necessarily go towards passing yards, and this is just counting dropbacks. He certainly had some rushes in there as well. And throwing the ball down the field, I mean, average depth to target 9.1 yards. So Joe Burrow is just 5.4. So that's if that difference is that big in a game, typically you're going to win just based on that alone, just pushing the ball further down the field.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to help. And, with that pushing the ball down the field, this team is eventually going to generate some more explosives. They only had 2 passing plays, 20 yards or more, and only 1 run, 20 yards or more. They're eventually going to create some more explosives too as the season goes on. But this is a step in the right direction. This is an impressive Ravens win. And you got to feel pretty good about their spot right now.
Final thought. Let's finish it with the Cincinnati Bengals because they're the team that I think we're all looking at. Where's the panic meter at? They do have a bit of an easier stretch playing the Rams, the Titans, and the Cardinals the next 3 weeks. Kind of feels like they have to go 3-0 in that stretch, right?
I
mean, who knows what the Rams are, I guess. But
I guess you probably have to win at least 2 of these games. Like if you win this Tennessee and Arizona game, even if you lose to the Rams, you probably are still in an okay spot. But the schedule isn't easy. So yeah, I mean, it becomes interesting. I mean, my personal panic meter still isn't that high, but I wouldn't be surprised if fans are a little higher. So,
yeah, it's not a great start, but I'm with you. I mean, there's no shame in losing by 3 to a good division rival. Maybe shame in losing that week 1, but I think there were interesting circumstances. But we'll see. We'll see. Try to avoid 0-3 in the Super Bowl rematch a week from tomorrow when they play Monday Night Football next week. Let's go Packers Falcons. Why don't we? This game looked like it was going to be over. Jordan Love kind of cruising along early, but all of a sudden here comes this Desmond Ridder guy who we were kind of making jokes about. Okay, they need him to throw 13 times to win. Not this time. Throws 32 times. Granted, they still ran the ball more than they threw the ball in this game. Ran the ball a ton. Just had a lot of plays, but he made some plays in this one. And also, this was I think the emergence of Bijan Robinson in a game where Algier 16 carries, just 3.0 yards per carry. Bijan 19 carries for 124 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. Also had 48 yards receiving. This guy is the guy that this is why they spent pick number 8 on him.
Yeah, he's impressive. He looked great. I thought this is kind of the game the Falcons want, right? Like they ran 77, 78 offensive plays in this game. I mean, that's kind of what they want. They wanted to wear this team down, and you look at the, kind of the games, game script. They trailed on in the fourth quarter. They were able to move the ball a little bit more in the fourth quarter. That defense looked exhausted for Green Bay. They kind of wore them down and eventually got scored 13 in the fourth and got the win. So I thought it was a really impressive game from the Atlanta offense, kind of being able to stick to the game plan no matter what. And then it turned into a win at the end. Atlanta 2-0. The NFC South is up right now. So hot.
Yeah, somehow if the Saints win tomorrow, the NFC South could have 3 2-0 teams. That's kind of wild how that's worked out. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I think we have to give Atlanta credit for is the addition of what's his name, the Jesse Bates. Yeah, that's kind of really I felt completed this coverage unit. It's I still don't know if they can rush the passer that effectively, but they can still have a good defense if we can't do that, and I think they're showing it.
Yeah, I mean the big thing with Atlanta, like there was just plays where like eventually when a guy beat AJ Terrell, that there was just 20 yards of space behind him, right? And so, when now there's not that space. They are taking away the deep plays. I mean, if you look at Jordan Love ended up with 151 total passing yards. I mean, it was okay, 6.0 yards per attempt. It wasn't terrible, but at the same time, like they've been able to eliminate those big plays, which is a huge part of success in today's game.
Hey, another 3 touchdown, no interception game. What's with these Packers quarterbacks getting just great touchdown interception ratios?
Yeah. Someone's going to look at that and say Jordan Love played really well. I thought he was fine, but yeah, I mean,
just like League One, like it's fine. Somehow, touchdown interception ratio is really well for him so far.
Yeah. Let's paint it this way. Let's do it differently. Has Jordan Love met, exceeded, or fell below your preseason expectations?
I would say so far he's exceeding my preseason expectations for sure. I just think that
Yeah.
some of the hype has gotten a little people have gotten a little carried away.
Is Jordan Love good enough to lead this team to the playoffs?
I don't think we've seen that yet. I'm not saying he can't. I just think I need more information.
Okay. I would say he's exceeded my expectations, although I had this team as a playoff team. I do think this team's going to be competitive. Like, I think they still, similarly, I mean, they got killed on the ground again. And this was one of the things that we talked Wednesday night I was worried about because, like, I know that they played well against the Bears, but this run defense still isn't fixed. And you could say, well, Bijan's amazing. Bijan is amazing. This run defense still isn't fixed, and they're getting gashed on the ground. But they eliminated a lot of the big plays too. They just, they got to figure out how to fix that run defense, I think specifically. And, there are some good things. They really need Christian Watson because nobody else is getting open downfield for this team.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, this is a missed opportunity for Green Bay. Like, let's just be honest. I mean, this is a team that they feel like after winning Week 1 in a big way, every team in the NFC North lost this week. Packers, Lions, Vikings, and Bears all lost. The Packers had a real chance to be leading in the division and talk about playoff spot. I mean, this game was right there for the taking, and they weren't able to get it done. And they even had a drive at the end for Jordan Love. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers gets it done there.
He would have, but they don't have Aaron Rodgers, that's for sure. So yeah, right. I mean, this NFC North seems like it's going to have some intrigue. Minnesota, 2 close losses week 1. The Bears probably towards the bottom of that division, and then 2 1-1 teams at the top. So might be competitive all year.
Yeah, should be a fun race. Are we buying Falcons playoff hype? I think so, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to entertain it. I think that they have
3
an identity.
NFC South playoff teams.
I don't know about that. Someone's eventually going to fall back to earth. I think this team has an identity. They have a nasty offensive line. They have a very good running back, and they're willing to play off that. And so far, it's looked pretty good. We'll see how it continues.
Yeah, good stuff so far by Atlanta. Let's talk about the other overtime game. What is this Chargers team? What are they, Kyle? I don't get this. This is how is this possible? How do the Chargers keep doing this? I want to buy into this team. I really do. Well, what's wrong? Are they cursed? What is it?
I don't know, man. Like every year, it seems like that there's something holding them back. Man, I told you this was going to happen.
But like it didn't even happen. They're right. Like it wasn't even like Derrick Henry ran all over them or anything. Like Derrick Henry had 3.2 yards per carry in this one.
Yeah, Tajay Spears though. Yeah,
I guess so.
I don't know. It just seemed like Staley's definitely gonna. If they're gonna ask Brandon Staley why, I saw this tweet. It was good. It's like if you ask Brandon Staley why he should keep his job, what's his excuse? What's his best excuse? There's just not one at this point, right? Like,
is he one of those guys? Like we speculate with Lovie Smith. Like, is he just like a great hang? Is he just like someone like the owners like him? It's gotta be one of those situations, right?
It might be at this point. But I mean, I don't think this defense is good enough. There's a few star players that can make some big plays. Joey Bosa had several big plays in this game, and I thought he had a good day. But I mean, Derwin James had 11 tackles. He did some good stuff too. I mean, there's just not enough of the other stuff, though. There's just not enough, the linebacking play. I know Kenneth Murray had a sack, a couple tackles for loss, but I just overall haven't been impressed with the rest of this team outside of the top guys. I mean, Herbert was terrific. Keenan Allen was terrific. Mike Williams was terrific. You look at like Joey Bosa, Derwin James, they were both pretty good too. And this team lost. And it's like, how do you lose when those 5 guys all play well?
Yeah, it's incredible. Super chat, is Tannehill still on that short leash? LOL. I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Oh, because I said he was gonna be on his way out after week 1.
Okay. Well, over 10 yards per attempt in this one, so maybe not.
He played well. He did play well. Had a couple big throws. That throw to Treylon Burks was nice. That was a good throw.
Yeah, but it's also a good example of, like, if I'm not saying Treylon Burks is a bad player. I think he's a good player, but like he's just a burning. I think that was Asante Samuel Jr. They're like burning him down the side, and it's just like
Mhm.
you do need games are won on the outside. You need to win those matchups.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely need to win those matchups, and yeah, it's just certainly frustrating. I mean, if you look at this Chargers team has too much talent to be kind of floating in mediocrity. I know they won 10 games last year, but you know, at what point do we start expecting more from this team? Because I mean, I literally got texts after this game saying like another year of Herbert being overrated and the Chargers stink, and it's like, what exactly is Herbert supposed to do here? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think he's not perfect. Like certainly had some moments that he probably would have liked to have back. But if your quarterback is giving you, like you said, counting stats aren't everything. But if your quarterback's giving you 27 for 41, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, like what more do you need? What more do you need? And like I said, their 5 best players all played excellent football, but it wasn't enough to win the game.
yeah. I mean, the Chargers have basically wasted all of Herbert's rookie contract at this point, and like I don't want to say it so. Like, they've lost 2 close games against 2 teams that I think are good. Like, I still think the Titans are a good team. At least a team capable of beating a good team, and I think that I think the Dolphins are a really good team. So like I'm not gonna like completely freak out, but like it kind of feels to me like Brandon Staley comes from the Rams, who their whole philosophy was let's get some star players and then let's just fill. I feel like people forget the other aspect of it is getting depth, getting players in late in the rounds who can in late rounds who can come through and just do enough. And I feel like I feel like the Chargers have not been able to do that. They have not been able to get the depth down. They've gotten some stars, and even the stars have been underwhelming, like J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack. These guys haven't done what they were brought on to do. So it's just like they're trying to replicate a specific team, and it is a strategy that can work. We've seen a team win a Super Bowl that way, but it just they haven't been able to execute that strategy.
I guess, like, is this a roster building problem? Like, they had the stars in house already. Like, they didn't have to go get JC Jackson. They could have
Right.
got 2 corners for the price of JC Jackson. They
Hmm.
didn't have to go get Khalil Mack. They could have got 2 edge rushers the price of Khalil Mack,
Hmm.
or edge rusher and a middle linebacker the price of Khalil Mack. And instead, they went and got Mack. Like, is this just a roster building problem where they didn't identify the star talent in their team and decided to add more stars instead of more depth?
I guess the way I would view it is like if Khalil Mack was playing as an elite edge rusher and J.C. Jackson was playing as an elite corner, I don't think we look at those as bad moves. I think the issue is just they've missed on those moves.
That's fair. Yeah, that's definitely true. So it's definitely a problem. I think this team still has the talent to win some games, but yeah, I mean, I I I don't know. I might just be out on them. I want to give some credit to Tennessee too, because I did think they
Yeah,
played well. And that shouldn't get overlooked by our frustration with the Chargers, because like you said, Tannehill was very good in this game. They ran the ball well. Tyjae Spears looks like a really nice pickup from the draft. So I thought this offense played miles better than it did week 1. And then the defense continues to kind of get the job done. I mean, they got after it. They got a bunch of sacks. They got a bunch of hits. They're playing defense well, and this team's going to be a tough out. I don't, they're definitely no shoo-in against Jacksonville.
yeah. We said it's preseason. Don't bet against the Titans. They do this. Yes, they've been doing it for years. You gotta understand that this is who they are. Good stuff from Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the world's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield on fire here to start this season. The story of this game, though, to not talk about my team right away, Justin Fields is having a rough start to this season, Kyle.
Yeah. Are you 100% out?
I no. I'm like 95% out. There still is that part of me. It's like he started off last year just as bad. I mean, last year at this time we were saying, why did the Bears even keep Justin Fields if they're not going to use him? Like what's going to happen? Clearly, the organization doesn't believe in him. And then things did turn around. I did see some flashes in this one. DJ Moore did have over 100 yards in this game. And I would say that Tampa Bay is a good defense. Like this is and a defense that clearly knows how to attack Fields. But like, am I out on Fields being like a superstar? Like, I can't think of a superstar who's had as rough of a first 3 years as it looks like Fields is about to have.
Yeah. I'm with you there. There were flashes. I mean, that throw to Claypool for the touchdown was really good too.
Yeah.
There is some really good stuff there, but at the same time, like, I mean, this just isn't what we were hoping for. So, I mean, the best scenario for Fields just hasn't existed, and we keep waiting for it. So, I don't know. It definitely is cause for concern, and we just talked about Burrow. It's early in the season. Joe Burrow has made the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Justin Fields does not get the benefit of the doubt in the same way. I do think there are some issues with the Bears just as far as like, I think their play calling's bad. I think their coordinator, there is a lot of coordinator buzz on Twitter when it comes to Bears games. And I think a lot of it is warranted. But at the same time, like, we talk about these coordinators all the time and like, oh, this play calling could be better. If you don't trust your quarterback, you're not going to call plays that, you think are going to try and create big plays, right? You have to have trust in the guy to make the play. And is it the coordinator is bad or they don't trust the guy?
It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I get, because like, okay, what's the criticism? Well, they were throwing screen passes on like 3rd down and long, or like 3rd down and 10-ish. But it's like, okay, 3rd down and 8, they go for screen pass, doesn't work. Then 3rd down and 9, they go for screen pass and it does work. And then like 3rd down and 10, they let Fields throw it and he nearly throws a pick. And it's just sort of like what can you do? I've always kind of made the comparison of in baseball when if you don't have a good bullpen, everyone wants your manager fired because like every time you go to the bullpen, the guy gets a run, people blame the manager. If you don't have receivers getting open, then I say people blame the coordinator when it's often the receiver's fault. But in this game, Kyle, there were plays where receivers were getting open and Fields just wasn't making the throws. And that's something that was happening last week too. Like he has to throw the football.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got to be able to trust the process, right? He's got to trust the offense. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It hasn't looked great. You want to do week 2 way too early overreactions? Predictions?
Sure. Do you have one?
All right. I have a question for you, and
because
they were drafted the same draft, will Mac Jones and Justin Fields be starting for their teams next season?
I will say, how about this? I'll say that the draft after that one will have more starters next year than that one. Only Trevor Lawrence will be the starter next year. Give me Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I mean that is spicy, but yeah, I mean it seems like it's trending that way.
It's possible. I think honestly, I think it's very possible that Lawrence could be the only one out of all those guys to be a starter next year. But going back to Fields for a second, like some of these sacks too. It's like I know people are blaming the offensive line. Don't get me wrong, there were reasons to blame the offensive line too. But like there was a play where he's literally holding on the ball. It was I timed it. It was over 5 seconds, and he's still just one hand on the football, looking downfield as like a blindside, and like he fumbled the football. They recovered it and were still able to kick a field goal. But it's just like some of these. It's just I don't know. He just hasn't progressed. It's why evaluating quarterbacks is so difficult. Like he just hasn't progressed at the things he's bad at because he is still really good at some things. But like you have to progress as a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the biggest concern because if you're not getting better, then is it ever going to get better? Like you said, this is year 3, and we're not expecting. Let me rephrase. We shouldn't expect a guy in year 3 to be like a Pro Bowler, a All-Pro potential guy, an MVP candidate, or anything like that. We shouldn't expect that. But the fact that it's not even getting marginally better, I think, is a big problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like year 3, you're starting to get who you are. So it's just, I mean, this just such a bummer for the Bears. Let's talk about the other side though. Tampa Bay Buccaneers played really good defense. Did kind of what we talked about going in. Did a good job. I thought really smart the way they played it. They kind of weren't even really trying to pass rush Fields. They were trying to just make sure he didn't get outside the pocket. Fields did not get outside the pocket at all in this game. I mean, he didn't. He had 4 rushes for 3 yards was his final stat line. So one of them was a touchdown on a design run, but like they were not letting him rush the football in this game. And, I thought that was very good. Shaq Barrett, could Shaq Barrett win a potential comeback player of the year? I mean, you think about what he had to do with coming back from an injury, but also just like, obviously, it's really the devastating situation of losing his 2-year-old child this offseason to, obviously playing well in a football game doesn't make up for it or anything, but like, it is nice to see him come back and have a good day.
Yeah, he had a good day. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think he'd be a candidate. He's been great so far to start this season. This defensive line's been awesome. I mean, we knew Vea was great. We knew Barrett was great. I thought the best player on that line today was Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And he's one of those guys, like he has that athleticism to keep up with a guy like Fields. He is a crazy good athlete, and he got after it. He had a huge day, I thought, made multiple big plays. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's been a really good performance from this Tampa Bay defense, I thought, from the first 2 weeks. And, the offense hasn't looked too shabby either.
Yeah. Mike Evans having one of those, I feel like 2 or 3 games a year, he just looks like the best player in football. Like he just has like those like little specific games. Granted, Chicago already has a bad secondary, and they were, very banged up in this one. Both secondaries were banged up in this one, which also makes that Justin Fields situation even worse, that he was doing it against Tampa Bay's backups. One thing we'll talk about it in a second, but Evans was great. Mayfield, definitely his numbers were inflated due to the playing the Chicago Bears, but still had a very good day in this one. And I kind of want to talk about Dave Canales, offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay. He was the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks last year. Part of me starting to wonder, could he start to get some head coaching buzz of what he did with Geno Smith, now what he's doing with Baker Mayfield?
Should be a candidate maybe if this continues. I mean, I'm still in a wait and see mode with this Tampa offense. Like it still wasn't great against Minnesota, even though like they didn't turn over the ball, which I thought was the big thing in that one. And they still haven't turned over the ball, I think. I don't think it's been a turnover through the first 2 games. So, I mean, if they continue to do that, that's going to help a lot. But yeah, I mean, they dice this secondary. Even if it is bad, that's a huge step in the right direction for Baker in this offense.
Yeah. Final thought on this game. Bears fans very upset at Chase Claypool, who did have a big block and a touchdown in this game, but also still struggling a little bit from the guy who traded pick number 32 to get. He was lined up against Zion McCollum, the late round draft pick for Tampa Bay, who looked borderline unplayable at parts this last year when he was thrown out there. He came in due to an injury and basically locked Claypool down. Not great if you're a Bears fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfair to Claypool because I don't think he should have been traded for the 32nd pick of the draft.
Right.
But, he's being criticized as a player that was that caliber. He's just he's an okay receiver,
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's move on. Let's talk Chiefs Jaguars. Why don't we? The high scoring game we all thought it would be, as 2 great young quarterbacks. Wait, the game is only 17-9. What an interesting game. This Chiefs defense showing what it can do. We were expecting, I think, bigger things from the Chiefs offense of Kelsey coming back, and did have a big touchdown, did have some plays here, 4 catches for just 26 yards, though. I mean, this was still not the offense you were expecting. It ended up being really a defensive matchup. And Lawrence did not have a great box score day either. Christian Kirk, kind of the only guy on that Jaguars offense to have come out well statistically in this one, as the, listen, I guess the Chiefs are just a defensive-minded team. And how about Kayvon Chason with a sack? He's back.
He is back. Was he ever there? I guess it's the first question. I thought the Chiefs kind of dominated this game outside of a few things. I mean, if you just look at like game numbers, like I'll just go through this one quickly. 64 plays each, right on the money. 399 yards to 271 total yards, 6.2 yards per play to 4.2 yards per play. Like they did a lot of good things. The bad things were just really, really bad. That included 3 turnovers, 12 penalties, and 4-13 on third down. So I thought they were good in a lot of spots. I think it's going to get better. I'm not worried about the Chiefs. I think it was still Chiefs offense specifically. I thought that the process was good, even if the results are bad. So I think the Chiefs are going to be excellent going forward. And this looked good for most parts. Just got to clean up some of the stuff.
Yeah. As for the sort of the hater off of the what would it happen Chiefs offensive line versus the Jaguars defensive line, it's still like Mahomes can evade any pressure. He's unbelievable. No
Yeah,
sacks for Trayvon Walker, unfortunately, in this one for the
yeah.
Trayvon Walker watch.
And Josh Allen got hurt too, which doesn't help this front seven at all. They still can cover pretty well. I was still impressed with the coverage for the most
Yeah.
part. You just can't get pressure on him. And if he, we know the Mahomes thing. He can hold the ball forever, and it's so hard, even for a good coverage unit like this Jaguars one, to really kind of make plays if he's going to be able to take 5-6 seconds. So it was a good job from them. I thought the front seven struggled. Andre Cisco had a nice interception, stuff like that. I don't think the Jaguars should feel bad about this game. I thought, they hung in there. They had opportunities. I mean, they had 3 or 4 like almost touchdowns. So there was like 1 foot down in the end zone. So I thought that they had some good stuff. They looked. I think it's fair to say they looked a tier below their opponent this week, and I think that's fine, even though there is still good stuff.
A super chat saying you did not bring up Cha ass on. So always a great love that there. Thank you for the super chat. I still thought Mahomes played pretty well in this one. And just looking at the Trevor Lawrence numbers are really rough. I mean, total EPA was minus 14.5. Completion percentage over expected was minus 12.9. So like those numbers can be a little fluky and can still be team stats, but just they weren't able to get it done. Whether you want to blame Lawrence or the Chiefs defense, I'll have to watch all 22. They should potentially a really good Chiefs football team is what we're looking at if they can get their offense going, which I'm sure they will eventually.
Yeah, that secondary looked great. Again, 2 weeks in a row now, it's looked awesome. Having Chris Jones still helps, No overreactions from week one. He's still, in a limited sample size, he was excellent. And then, I thought Lawrence, this wasn't his best day. He did have a few throws like that. Calvin Ridley one at the end was like very close to a touchdown. There was a Zay Jones one in the end zone too that was very close to the touchdown that I thought he could have got a pass interference call for. It was pretty close though. That's a bang bang play. So it wasn't his best day. There were still some good throws. But yeah, they still have room to grow. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. Let's move on. How about the Niners taking on the Rams? As for a second, I was like, is this about to happen? Are the Rams about to do this? Matt Stafford slinging it all over the field. The Rams, playing the 49ers really tough early on. But then Stafford kind of, I think, struggled a little bit, threw a couple picks. The 49ers were able to, I don't want to say get back in it because it was always a close game, but kind of pull away a little bit towards the end. The Rams did kick a field goal to make it a 1-score game on the final seconds. Great move there by the Rams. Make sure you get the cover going. But, I think we saw a couple things. I think we saw that the Rams are playing good football. I mean, Rams are playing competitive against a team many think could win the Super Bowl, including someone on this podcast. The Rams were right there with them, and also kind of shows that the 49ers are human a little bit.
Yeah, I think it both of those things are true. Obviously, I did not expect, despite my sky-high expectations of San Francisco preseason, I did not think they were going to win every game 30-7. That being said, there's still really good stuff from San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey continues to be awesome. That's the first thing. Deebo Samuel continues to also be awesome. That's the second thing. And then you just look at, like, time and time again, it was just like they had a big play to those guys drawn up. And it's just going to be really hard to stop this team as long as those two guys are on the field, and those two guys just make things happen. They make big plays. And this is why you go out and get players of McCaffrey's caliber, because it's really hard to contain both of those guys all the time.
Yeah, they're a very good football team, this San Francisco 49ers. And I didn't think Brock Purdy even had his best day here. He's human. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Still got the win though. He hasn't lost a regular season game, so he may not be human.
He hasn't lost a game in which he hasn't gotten injured in the NFL.
Yeah, crazy. I thought he played well. He was fine. Like,
he
didn't have to do a whole lot. Like, I guess that's the big thing. I came away from this game more impressed with this Rams team. Stafford, like his counting numbers weren't awesome, but I thought he still played pretty well in this game. Gave them a chance, and is Puka Nacua the best receiver in football? I guess is the question.
I think so. Yeah, we have a super chat. When Cup returns, the Puka Cup duo will be scary. Yeah. Yeah. 15 catches, 147 yards for Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell, 77 yards in his own right. I mean, when the fact that they can get Cooper Cup back, like if they, I don't know, I'm buying stock in the Rams for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nacua is on pace to become the greatest receiver of all time.
That's true.
If he does this every week, he will be better than Jerry Rice. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Keep tracking that. But yeah, I mean, I think this Rams team's pretty good. Kyron Williams is doing some good stuff too. I mean, this defense has made some plays. It wasn't enough in this game, but there are some players here, and I think they've done a good job.
Should we do the weekly Jerry Rice record watch of how much Nacua yards are, and then where he has to get the Jerry Rice?
Yeah, start that now. We'll check back in 25 years. But.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Good win for the Niners and good loss, quality loss for the Rams. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's stick out west as Denver Broncos play a weird game of football. Early on, this is looking like the old Russell Wilson is back. Russell Wilson is cooking. Sean Payton has fixed him. They go up 21-3. All of a sudden, things just go off the rails. Denver falls down, by 11 points to the Washington Commanders. But then wildness happens. They can't score touchdowns. They kick a field goal to go down 8. They throw a successful Hail Mary, bobbles off a couple guys, ends up getting caught for a touchdown. And then they don't score a 2-point conversion, largely due to a missed pass interference penalty. That's what it was. It should have been called on Cortland Sutton, who apparently I called Cameron Sutton in the video. And now I'm looking at Google has him listed as Cohen Sutton. Why can no one get this poor guy's name right?
Poor Cortland Sutton trying his best, man. Trying to make a name for himself. I mean, this game was just insane. Like you said, they're up 21-3. They give up a touchdown and a field goal late at the end of the first half. Then it was like ball scored to tie it up. There's a pick, a missed 59-yard field goal. Denver takes the lead back. Then it was 35-24. I mean, this was just a wild turn of events. This was a wild game just in general. And yeah, I mean, it stinks that it ended with the controversy because it was a blatant pass interference. But you're also up 21-3, man. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's cliche, but it's true. Game doesn't come down to one play. Don't put yourself in that position to begin with. But also, just as a football fan, I don't know. I wanted to see that Hail Mary count. That was a cool play. Yeah, I mean, it counted, but I wanted to see it matter.
Yeah, I mean that it should have been overtime, right? It should have at least been overtime. So that's a bummer.
Well, in fairness, they would have still had to go for it. Pass interference wouldn't have given them the conversion, but
right.
But yeah,
would have helped. So yeah, I mean it is a bummer, but this is a tough stretch though for the Broncos. They lose 2 winnable games here. They've lost. This feels like the Broncos last year, where they just lost every game by 2 or 3 points, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, they have to play Miami next week on the road. It's okay, so I don't know. It's it feels like it's going to be a tough stretch for them here. Could be 0-3 to start the season, despite not playing terribly, but not playing good enough too.
Their point differential is -3, and they're 0-2 to start the year. Kyle, the Broncos are dead.
You're out.
They're dead. I'm calling it. We gotta have some overreactions for week 2. Broncos are dead. 0-2, playing Miami next week. If they can't find a way to pull out that one, which I don't think they will, it's over.
I don't know, man. Could beat the Bears and Jets. All of a sudden, you're 2-3. Get the Packers,
and then you got to play the Chiefs 2 times in 3 weeks.
Yeah, but then you get that out of the way. Maybe
then you get to play the Bills.
Maybe the Bills are beat up. Maybe the Vikings. You can get that one. We'll see how Browns look in week 2. Texans is a win. Chargers are going to find a dumb way to lose that twice. You can, you can beat the Lions and Patriots, the Raiders you never beat, so never mind. But there's a way to get some wins here.
I don't know.
They're
This
not dead
is
yet. I'm calling not dead.
okay. I don't know. I mean, this is what it's at least. I guess I'll say this: Russell Wilson's looking inconsistent, which is still a pretty big upgrade from what he was last year.
Yeah, instead of just bad, he's just inconsistent. That's
Yeah,
fair. I mean, when he has time, when the play works and he has time to set in the pocket, I mean, he's still one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. I mean, a couple of those balls were beautiful. There's just a lot of other stuff that's not so beautiful,
yeah. So some not so beautiful play from them. Actually, finish it off with the Washington, because we didn't talk about them that much. There's stuff I like with this team. Sam Howell, I'm still trying to get a really get a grasp on as a player. I feel like he'll have some like really rough looking plays, but also have some really impressive looking plays. Montez Sweat's awesome. Chase Young had a sack and a half in this one. Also had like it felt like 1,000 penalties in this one, so got to cut that down. But they're just I don't know, a scrappy team here.
If the Patriots are the most impressive 0-2 team, is this the least impressive 2-0 team?
Interesting. I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, Philadelphia could be in the conversations for just how they've started this year. Obviously,
Yeah.
they have previous pedigree. I think maybe you could throw Tampa Bay in the mix, probably. But yeah, I would say so. Also, maybe Atlanta. Just getting past both of their matchups. But I would say those three teams: Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Washington.
Yeah, I'd probably put that. I mean, give them credit though. They battled back in this game, like you said. They scrapped. Sam Howell makes some big time throws, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's bad either. There's some
young.
gamer to him. Yeah, there's some gamer to him.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Thursday night game, why don't we? As looked like it was going to be all Philadelphia. The Eagles had a, commanding lead, late in this one, but all of a sudden Kirk Cousins, usually you would say, oh, this is classic Kirk Cousins once the game is out of reach, but it wasn't out of reach. They were able to make a game of it before Philadelphia was able to hold on at the end. Cousins' numbers this season are outstanding. He has 4 touchdowns, no picks, 364 yards in this one. And Justin Jefferson, another 150 plus yard game. This guy's going to get 2,000 yards, it seems. But they fell down too early, and when they were able to make a comeback at the end, they haven't been able to play complete football. Also, DeAndre Swift, 175 yards in this one for Philadelphia.
Yeah, a lot going on here. I guess this is the exact reason why QB wins. When people bring up QB wins, it bothers me so much. Like, Kirk Cousins is playing borderline, like, for the first 2 weeks, borderline MVP level football.
And I don't know if I go that far.
I mean, he's been fantastic. I mean, what more does he need to do?
I thought week 1, he did throw a goal line pick. He did have some missed throws in that one.
Okay, fair. But I mean, at the same time, like, it's still pretty darn good. He has over 70% completion percentage, over 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, it's been objectively a good start to the year for him. And it seems
that's true.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's just like, it's the same thing where I talk about, how do you try and say that someone's good or someone's bad based on wins and losses? Like, Kirk Cousins has been good, but Kirk Cousins wasn't the reason I was concerned about this team. I don't think they can defend good enough, and I think that's come to fruition a little bit during these 2 weeks, even though, like, Danielle Hunter is making this defensive line work. They are doing some good stuff, but I mean, they couldn't stop the run in this game, and it eventually cost them to the tune of 259 yards rushing, 5.4 yards per attempt, and 3 touchdowns.
And you compare that to Alexander Madison not having a great day. Also, posted some racist messages that he received after it from Vikings fans. That's not cool. Don't have to do that.
Yeah, don't have to do that for sure. But I don't even think Madison was the reason why they lost this game too. So
yeah,
they had a fumble in the end zone in this game. Like, that would have helped. I mean,
they wouldn't stop. They loved the fumble. They were fumbling left and right. Big fumble day for Minnesota.
Yeah, that's their favorite thing, I guess. No one's criticizing Justin Jefferson for that, right?
Well, it did have 159 yards, but yeah,
he was good. I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like Lions fans keep making fun of TJ Hawkinson because I think he had a quote of like, "I'm excited to start winning or whatever, and they haven't been winning. He's like the Vikings have, I thought, clearly won that trade though. Like he's been a very good piece for them.
He's been good. I mean, Jordan Addison's been good. I mean, this is a good offense.
Yeah.
And Minnesota is still going to win games because this offense can cook. I just don't know how many games they're going to win. Like I think they're going to be okay. I'm not panicking. I'm not hitting the panic button after all this, but eventually you're going to have to start seeing the results. It's going to be interesting seeing them play the Chargers next week because somebody has to win that.
Yeah. And meanwhile, for Philadelphia, it hasn't been the most dominant start. I think that's fair to say. Team that I picked to win the Super Bowl in the preseason has, they've won. You're winning football games. You don't complain about that. But, Hurts hasn't looked quite as great. I don't know, kind of talking myself into Tampa Bay maybe pulling off the upset Monday night.
Interesting. I could see it. I think the two things you have to be concerned about with this team is the passing game hasn't looked as good as it did last season, which, like, Hurts was obviously great last year. This offense was great last year. They thrived on a lot of explosive pass plays, and we're just not seeing enough of those. Devontae Smith obviously had the big touchdown in this one, but there's just not enough of it, I think. And I think that's the problem. But they need a little bit more of that. And my biggest concern right now is their secondary. They're getting cooked. They haven't looked good, I thought, the first 2 weeks of the year. Even though this team's 2-0, you don't have to worry about it yet. But, is this team going to be able to cover some of the best teams in the league? I think it's something that needs to be a conversation.
Yeah, definitely something we have to keep an eye out for. 3 games left. Let's go Colts Texans. Why don't we? As started to look like the Colts were going to just completely run away with it, and it kind of did. But the Texans did make a game of it. I think one of the stories is Anthony Richardson, who looked great in the small sample size, but then goes down again. Gardner Minshew, comes on and he plays the majority of this game. So that's not what you want to see have happen. Meanwhile, the rookie quarterback for the Texans, CJ Stroud, he had 384 yards in this one, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Now, I think that stat line's a bit misleading in this one, but I still thought he had some real flashes as well. Did throw the ball 47 times, so that helped. Nico Collins, 146 yards. So some young players to get excited about for both these teams.
Yeah, I think both teams could come away kind of somewhat satisfied with their performances, right? Like there was good stuff on both sides, but this offensive line is going to get CJ Stroud killed, and especially when it's not healthy.
Yeah,
it's sad. And I mean, there was the the Adam Schefter tweet was cracking me up because he talked about Laramie Tunsil being hurt, and he also mentioned Titus Howard being out, and then he also mentioned the other starters like Juice Scruggs and Kenyon Green, and it's like, well, those guys weren't good anyway. I don't know how much they were going to help,
right?
But having not having those 2 tackles, I think is really despite my low expectations for this offense, has hindered it even more because there's just not enough. There's no room for Dameon Pierce, and we know Dameon Pierce is a good player. He just can't find holes. There's no holes to run through with this team right now because they're basically starting a JV offensive line. I think Stroud did about as good as he could given that circumstances, and I thought he had some good stuff in this game. I was impressed.
Yeah, exactly. He showed some strides. He still is someone who's a young player, but I don't know. Like, is he already like what Kenny Pickett was doing like at the beginning of his rookie year? Who was someone who I think we both kind of felt like had a good rookie season.
Yeah, and Kenny Pickett was 35 when he was playing his rookie year. So
right.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's a very impressive stuff for him. And I think he's handled this situation as well as he could. They need talent around him badly. And, I know Tank Dell had some nice plays here. Nico Collins and Robert Woods, there's just not enough for me to be really excited about this Texans team. And that's what's ultimately going to probably have them towards the bottom of the league.
Well, hey, at least they get that great draft pick next year, huh?
No.
Yeah. I really do kind of feel like Will Anderson, who has looked good for them, it's almost like, I don't know, unless he's getting a sack every game, like you're kind of sitting here like, I really feel like the only way that Texans feel good about that draft pick isn't even about Will Anderson. It's about if they win enough games to make it not as good of a draft pick.
We're going to watch like Marvin Harrison Jr. set the rookie receiving record next year and be like, Texans, if only we had that, right?
Yeah.
it's going to be rough. Richardson's got to not take hits, basically.
Yeah.
That's the lesson of today. Like you said, it was really good up until he got hurt. But very small sample size, not really enough to go off of. But he did some good things. It's unfortunate. He's got to learn that.
Yeah, and it's on him. I mean, the offensive line's like the Texans didn't have a sack in this game. Like the offensive line's playing well for Indianapolis. It just you gotta it's the hits that he's choosing to take. You have to pick your spots, which is again, guys played what like 3 games of football prior to this season, so like it makes sense that he's gonna it's gonna struggle a little.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. He obviously has a lot of faith in his athletic ability, as he should. He's an incredible athlete, but he's gonna take the beating for it.
Yeah. Interesting 2 teams. Let's go to the Raiders taking on the Bills. This game kind of went. It's one of those like in hindsight, like yeah, of course this is how this game would go, right? Garoppolo struggles. The Bills defense playing really good football to start this season. I mean, I know that like okay, they played the Jets week 1 with Zach Wilson, who wasn't even expected to go, but still played really well. Josh Allen ends up 3 touchdowns, no picks. Not the best yards per attempt, but not terrible either. And then James Cook, 7.2 yards per carry, 123 yards on just 17 carries. Damian Harris, former Patriot, has a good day on the ground as well. Matt Milano, basically just mossed a guy for an interception. This was, a total get right game for Buffalo.
Yeah, they look good. And this was something we kind of expected to happen, like you said. And it felt like it needed to happen. They needed to beat up somebody after that week 1 loss. So yeah, everything's right in Buffalo now. No worries. I guess the interesting variable out of this is like the Bills can run the ball. But I guess I want to see it a little more because, if you listen to our preseason podcast, I do not think highly of this Raiders defense, specifically the run defense. And yeah, this is it's a to be determined for me on the Bills can run the ball, but they did good in this game.
Yeah, just a get right game. That's what you're trying to do. I still don't fully get what the Raiders are doing here. As their defense it's looked bad through 2 weeks. I know that the overall numbers were, the bulk numbers were good week 1, but keep in mind it's only 6 possessions. It was actually pretty rough if you look at per possession week 1 as well. And then Garoppolo turned the ball over multiple times. Like I guess I get it. The game got out of hand. You had to make some throws. It's just I don't know. I think this is gonna be a tough year for the Raiders.
I think so too. The interesting thing about this game was they went down the field and scored the first possession. It was like,
yeah, it looked like it was going to be a game at first.
Yeah. Then they forced a 3 and out, and all of a sudden it's interesting. Then it was a pick, touchdown, and then the Bills said, "This is our game now." So I'm with you. I think it is going to be a rough year for the Raiders, but obviously getting that week 1 win was big. We'll see. Still not overly optimistic, but they obviously have some good players, including Josh Jacobs, who went 9 carries for -2 yards.
Not ideal for the Raiders. We'll see what they can do. Let's finish off with the Jets taking on the Cowboys, and this game went kind of as expected. I actually thought Zach Wilson didn't look terrible to start the game. Like the first half or so was pretty good. Ends up with a terrible stat line though. 12 for 27. 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. I mean, if that's not a Zach Wilson stat line, I don't know what is. Somehow he was the leading rusher in this game by like an insanely high margin. 5 carries for 36 yards. The next closest was Breece Hall with 9 yards on 4 carries. He tweeted out just the football emoji 4 times, which was then deleted. Maybe he's not happy with his lack of workload as the Dalvin Cook 4 carries 7 yards. Michael Carter 2 carries 8 yards. Ashton Davis had a carry for 4 yards. Running game not really getting anything going. Garrett Wilson's awesome. Garrett Wilson's really good. This is not a great Jets offense, and I don't know if they got to just fix the quarterback. I honestly also don't know if they do fix the quarterback. I don't know how much that changes this game in particular. I think there just wasn't a lot going on other than that one big Garrett Wilson play over Diggs or not Diggs, Gilmore.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't know how much this changes. The Jets have scored 2 offensive touchdowns through 2 games, And both of them are Garrett Wilson making some amazing plays. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
basically going to be this team this season at this point without Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be a rough year, I think. Aaron Rodgers said he's hoping to come back for a playoff run. I don't know if there's going to be a playoff run, honestly, because this offense is not good. Zach Wilson can't run Aaron Rodgers' offense. That's basically what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the throw to Wilson was a good throw. He had some, but at the same time, it's a sub 50% completion percentage a day with 3 interceptions. That's just not going to cut it. And, you're not going to win a lot of games with quarterback play like that.
Yeah. I mean, at what point do you just say, like, okay, you know what, we're gonna get a quarterback? Like, it's probably worth it to spend like a 6th-round pick to get some backup quarterback somewhere, right? Like, I don't get Case Keenum from Houston. Like, they already have Davis Mills already. Like, what are they doing there?
If they
I think
traded
I
for
said Cleveland. I meant Houston.
Yeah. If they traded for Kirk Cousins tomorrow, would you put the Jets back in Super Bowl contention?
It depends on maybe if we're assuming it's to get Kirk Cousins and like the entire rest of the roster is the same. At least on the outside of Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a huge difference. How much? So I guess let's go to the other side because I don't know. I feel like we did the Jets thing a lot last week or on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
When was that game? That game was Sunday night.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. That's right. So we did a lot on that Wednesday, and I think we kind of just know what this team is. Really good defensively, but that really good defense did not handle Dak Prescott that well. They limited the explosive plays. Sure, there wasn't a lot of big plays, but 31 to 38, 2 touchdowns. I thought he had a pretty good day, despite not throwing for 1 billion yards. He had a lot of really good throws in this game through tight windows.
I agree. The overall numbers, I guess, depends on how you view the stat line. I would say the overall numbers weren't spectacular, like box score wise, but total EPA 17.5 in this one. I mean, that's a very good performance. Zach Wilson minus 13.2, not so good. This was, I agree. CeeDee Lamb had 143 yards. He was the main guy Dak was throwing to. Dak made some really good throws. This is the Cowboys' ceiling, essentially, is this football game. I still want to see them play a real quarterback. And we're not going to see it next week. They're playing Arizona. We're not going to see it the week after because they're playing the Patriots. So, who knows when it'll happen. But sorry, couldn't help myself. But it just, they have an easy start to the season, and that's going to, I think certainly get expectations high. But like, I don't know. As of right now, I almost feel like Dallas maybe they deserve to be favored to go to the Super Bowls. It's them and San Francisco who play each other week 5. I mean, that could be, that could be a NFC Championship preview, perhaps, which is interesting because those two teams obviously have a lot of historic games going back, a ways.
Yeah, I was impressed. I think I agree with you through the first 2 weeks. It's hard not to say they're the most impressive team. The thing is, it's a combination of bad quarterbacks and bad offensive lines that they faced the first 2 weeks. So I want to see it a little more. I want to get a little more of a sample size against bigger tests. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to come away from this team from the first 2 weeks really impressed. Micah Parsons looks like the best defensive player in football. He's been awesome. Like you said, the offense looked a lot better this week. It was just an impressive game again. So, I mean, you can't criticize them for the way the schedule played out for them. The schedule played out and who they're faced, but they have checked every box so far.
Yeah, and they've done what you should do with teams that you're better than and dominated.
Yeah, they have certainly kicked ass for the first 2 weeks. Outscoring your opponent 70-10 is objectively a good thing.
Yeah, although the Jets did have more yards per play in this one, 4.7 to 4.6.
That's bizarre.
So who's the real winner?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with this offense. Dak did have one throw where he threw it right to Sauce Gardner and he dropped it. That would have been a pick 6. But outside of that, I thought he was really good.
Yeah. I guess the one last thing I would say about this game is, we have seen this from Dak before. We have seen this from the Cowboys before. The criticism is Dak is never, he can't have great games.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. It feels a little different right now, right? Like they are legitimately dominating.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. Things are going really well. I do just wonder though. I just always wonder. I always just feel like I bet against the team that their mindset is we have a good enough quarterback with good enough weapons, good running game and a great defense, and we're gonna try to win a Super Bowl that way. Feels like that can get you to a point, but like usually, like getting to the playoffs, one playoff win, that's kind of the ceiling.
Yeah, potentially. But, I've always kind of said, I still think Dak is talented enough to have a Stafford-like playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like he might have the most talent in the league. That is this the year that he puts together just three great games? I think it's possible.
It's possible. I'm going to bet against it. Like that's just how I view
Yeah.
it. Like when you have that contract and it's a tier, even I'll give him tier 2 quarterback. It's like, I bet against that.
Okay, let me ask you a different question then. So if you were to, we obviously did our offseason previews. I think we were both lockstep with who was finishing second and first. If you were to predict right now, would you have them over the Eagles for the division?
Right now, yes. I mean, I don't see how you can say the other. I mean, I think Philadelphia has looked very underwhelming, and Dallas so far looks because I think the question was like, is Gilmore going to be like a really good corner? And well, he did have that one play. I don't know. Garrett Wilson burned him. It's Garrett Wilson. I think he's looked really good so far. Like if this defense does have legitimately 2 elite corners, like they were one of the best defenses last year, and then added an elite corner. Like that's such good value. Yeah, I think that to win the division, I'll say yes. I don't love the NFC, and that's also part of why I think the Dallas Cowboys could actually maybe get to a Super Bowl this year. It's just given what's in front of them, given the fact that like it's San Francisco and Philadelphia and maybe some other Tampa Bay, some other team that they have to get through. But I think that they're absolutely one of the contenders. I want to see it against a real quarterback.
Yeah, I think it generally is true no matter what. But it feels like the number 1 seed, it's only 2 weeks, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. It feels like the number 1 seed in the NFC might be more important this year than any year before. Because if it's, one of these teams, if it's San Francisco, Dallas, Philadelphia, the fact that you may only have to play one of those teams once and then host the NFC Championship could be, I just feel like massive because I feel like it's 3 teams and everyone else still right now.
It's a little bit weird though, just because if Dallas does win the division, let's say, and then Philadelphia is like the 3rd best team, but if they would be the 5 seed, so like it still could be possible that in a weird way they'd end up playing Dallas in the 2nd round, and you still kind of get screwed and have to play 2 of those teams anyway.
Yeah, it really would depend because it could be Seattle in that 6th seed. Like I think they could be in any team from the 3 or 4 seed. I mean, it'd be interesting. We're way too far ahead of ourselves, but
yeah.
But
that's it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like that the fact that you may only have to face one of those teams potentially, and kind of control your fate and get home field advantage and the bye week. I just feel like that's important when it's a maybe 3-team conference.
Yeah, Kyle, let me know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. Make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcasts, search On the Sideline Podcast anywhere you get your podcast. It should be available there. Or if you found us listening, check out the YouTube channel, Jackson Kruger Sports on YouTube. Have a good time here. So we are 2 weeks into football season. We're in the thick of things now. We're fully into football season.
Yeah, feels like the season is 1/8 over.
Yeah, I guess so. That doesn't seem that bad.
No,
it's like one slice of pizza.
Yeah, I did order pizza today. It was okay. Anyway, good stuff so far. We've had a lot of fun games. This was, like you said, this was a great week. We had Hail Marys. We had overtime on multiple occasions. We had Brandon Staley finding a dumb way to lose. It's all been good.
Yeah, and although the stupid Rays lost in a heartbreaker today.
Baseball season's over. The Red Sox are out.
Okay, well, yeah, if Red Sox are out, then what are we doing? Let's just cancel it. Thank you to everybody.
Nobody else plays baseball.
No, nobody does. Thank you to everybody. We do appreciate you watching along with us, especially those of you who are up at 1:30 on the East Coast with me. Thank you for watching. Any final thoughts, Kyle?
Looking forward to the next week. Let's get after it. 2 great Monday night games, it seems like, on deck, or maybe 1 great Monday night game and then the Panthers. But should be fun.
Yeah, did I miss something? When did we start doing multiple Monday night games? Because next week we also have 2.
I don't know. I didn't understand it.
I'm not
Usually they
mad at
do
it.
it week 1, but I think they were trying to make the Rodgers thing a big deal, so they moved it to week 2. But I got no excuse for week 3. I
Yeah,
don't
I think
know.
for a while it was like they were trying to like the Raiders always got a Monday night game, and they're like, "Why are
Yeah.
we picking the Raiders? Let's stop doing that."
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't get it.
All right, well, yeah, tomorrow Saints, Panthers, and Browns, Steelers. Couple divisional matchups should be interesting. Thank you to everybody again. We do appreciate it, and until next time, have a good one.
Peace.